I actually named him as captain for the Sydney Test match last summer. You know, when Rowett didn't play that game and there was a bit of an injury cloud over Bumrah, or as that game went on, Bumrah actually broke down in that game. And look, I don't know Shubman that well. I've spoken to him 6, 8, 10 times maybe the last couple of years around different things and around batting and around leadership. He's done a great job with GT, no doubt about that. But he just seems the sort of guy that the extra responsibility wouldn't faze too much. You know, it seems like he's got a really level head on his shoulders. He's someone that's going to be around, you know, Indian cricket for another 10 years. His white ball form has been incredibly good. He's got a little bit of work to do, yes, on his Test match batting, and that's never easy when you're a new captain. To have to worry about your batting to the degree that he's going to have to won't be easy for him. But I think he's got enough senior players around him with KL and Bumrah and these sort of guys to help him, and even someone like Rishabh, who's played a fair bit of Test cricket now as well, to sort of, you know, help him through the initial stages of his captaincy. So I think it's a good call. Really, probably the only call I think India could have made. You know, with Bumrah, you know, obviously everyone was thinking that Bumrah was going to be the captain, but to be honest, I'm not sure they can risk trying to get him through 5 Test matches in a row in England coming up. So they might need to maybe play him in 3 of those 5 and manage him through. And what you don't want with captaincy is not having that continuity. So with Shubman being there, they'll get that continuity, and I think it's the right call.
And were you referring to his defence when you're talking about his red ball technique, work to do, or something else?
Oh, look, it's a bit of both. You know, there's some of the great Test players that haven't had great defensive games. You know, you look at Sehwag or something like that's probably a great example of that. But I think if you're in control of your stroke play, you don't have to worry too much about your defence. I mean, obviously it's a big part of Test match cricket, but I think it's more his mental application. I think everything's there to me. Well, I mean, when I see him play a forward defence or backward defence, there's nothing there that's technically wrong. I think sometimes he might just get a little bit either ahead of himself or a little bit lazy in the middle of a Test match innings, and you can't afford to do that. You've got to be 100% committed to every ball that you face through 6 or 7 hours of every day if you want to be a successful test match batsman. That's what the great players have always done, and I think that's the challenge for Shubman. But everything's there, and I'm sure we'll see him turn into a terrific Test match player.
He wants to bat at 3. That's why from opening he moved to number 3. Now there are talks that maybe he could replace Kohli as a number 4. I mean, your thoughts on that?
Once again, I got asked that yesterday as well, and I actually had him at number 4 in that current side. And the reason I did that was to try and, if they go with Jaiswal and if Sudarshan's the other opener, I think they need someone a bit more experienced at number 3. So that could be a KL at 3, or that could be a Karan Nair at 3, and Shubman at 4, and one of those other guys at 5, and Pant at 6. They might think about going that way. And I think as well, I know how hard it is batting in the top 3 and being a captain, and when you're not in complete control of your game, that can be difficult. So I'd like to see him start at number 4. Go in and start as captain at number 4, get used to that role, and then once you grow into it, then you can move yourself back up to that number 3 spot.
So KL and Jaiswal not opening for you?
I think the time's right for Sudarshan to come into the side, to be honest. There's a bit of a regeneration that's going to happen around this Indian team now, obviously with Rowett not there and Virat not there, so every team goes through that. It seems to me like Sudarshan's ready. Lots of first-class runs. His IPL form this year's been probably better than anybody else's. Technically, he seems fine, so it won't be. It's never an easy place for someone to debut, especially an Indian player to debut in England with the conditions that you're confronted with over there. But it just seems to me that the time might be right for him, and KL down in the middle order somewhere probably just gives that bit more stability in the middle as well.
And thoughts on Kohli and his career, and was it a surprise?
No great surprise, to be honest. No, I wasn't surprised of it. He's been an incredibly good player for such a long period of time. To get 30 Test match hundreds, that his average dropped from the sort of mid-50s down to the high 40s at the end of his career, which, most players do. You don't get better the older you get. That's one thing I do know. But the fact that he's still playing T20s and one-day cricket for India is, I think, a great sign for Indian cricket. There's so much talent there that he can sort of be around and harness and almost help through the early stages of their international careers. So, no, congratulations to him.
And lastly, about this transition, we've had a massive transition. Probably the the biggest in the last 10 years. How do you see Indian team undergoing that and the series in England in general, 5 test matches?
Look, I think India is one team that'll cover those couple of losses from when I say losses, retirements from senior players really seamlessly. You know, there's just so much talent here, so many young players that can come in and step up. Even someone like Karan Nair coming back in who hasn't played a Test match in 7 years, so they've got that sort of ability that they can call on as well, and that little bit of experience where they need it. So I think, they're great players. Sharma and Virat obviously great players, and they'll be sadly missed. But I think India will cover quite quickly. Shami's the other one that's not there. That's the other big loss that no one's really spoken about a lot, because we've seen what Shami's been able to do in England in the past at his absolute best, and he's been as good as anybody over there. Hasn't taken the wickets because he's actually been too good. He's gone past the outside edge more than finding the outside edge. So there's a loss there. Arshdeep, as I said, I think can cover that role, or even someone like a Prasidh Krishna can cover that role as well pretty well, I think. So I think they'll recover and rebound pretty quickly.
In the Ashes here, how do you see England doing against India, and then obviously the big series?
Look, England are a good side. They're a good team. I'm not sure about the way that they want to play, if that's sustainable against the best teams. This whole ultra aggressive approach, the Bazball sort of approach. I'm not sure how good that stands up against the absolute best teams in the world. We've seen them, slaughter weaker opposition as they should, but it didn't really stand up against Australia in England last time. I'm not sure how to stand up against India either, because one thing they need, and we've spoken about this a lot, that if they want to play that style of cricket, they need flat pitches. But if they provide flat pitches, then India will bat well over there as well. So it's a double-edged sword for them, and I'm not sure which way it'll go. In the Australian summer, I can't see them winning in England, to be honest. Australia, if they're at full strength with that bowling attack, and Australia got a few decisions to make as well with their top order batting. Labuschagne's the one that everyone's talking about at the moment. Cameron Green's going to come back into the side. Who's the other opener going to be? We'll know in a couple of weeks when the World Test Championship comes around. But then they go to the West Indies, and then they obviously have got the Ashes in Australia. So they've got a bit of cricket to play yet, but I can't see England beating Australia at home.
Yes, that's a shot.
क्रिकेट की हर बड़ी खबर,
Lovely shot.
हर बड़े अपडेट और लाइव डिस्कशन के लिए जुड़िए मेरे साथ सिर्फ इंडिया टीवी क्रिकेट यूट्यूब चैनल पर।